2:25 and Edwards 1:24.046. So as I said, Edwards still the fastest man on the circuit here. The gap between himself and Valentino Rossi stood at 1.5 seconds the last time they crossed the line. I can tell you that now has dropped to 1.4. Edwards dropping 0.4 of a second to Rossi during the second section of this track, but picking up those 0.4 again in the third section. And there, as you can see, running it wide onto the rumble strip as he desperately tries to cut down the difference between himself and his teammate. His two Hondas behind Edwards, Gibernau and Biaggi, having a real old battle there. And there is that position progression for Gibernau, 13th on the grid, and an excellent performance from him up to 4th place.
Yeah, they race past me once again, and the trouble for Colin Edwards is, even if he gets up to Valentino Rossi, he's actually overtaking him. And of course, while he's having these problems, Nicky Hayden is riding the perfect race at the front at the moment. Well, what a good scrap between two men that have not had the best of seasons.
Oh, there's a man gone, Carlos Checa. Carlos Checa is out of this race. Another survivor of the 250cc race here in 1993 and 1994. His first Premier Class appearance at Laguna Seca ends in the gravel for the Ducati Spaniard.
There we go. Didn't quite see what happened. It looked like probably the front end went.
Yeah, I think it was front end down there in Rainy Corner, wasn't it? There, very easily done as they come down the hill, slightly off camera into the corner, and then pushing that front end so hard, and that looks to have been the problem for Carlos Checa. His teammate Loris Capirossi currently down in 10th place, so not a good day for Ducati.
Now we've seen 3 fallers, what Alex Barros, Marco Melandri, and Carlos Checa. Happy to say all of them perfectly okay physically, mentally. Barros and Melandri, they're certainly not friends at the moment.
So Nicky Hayden crosses the line once more, 2.5 seconds now, his advantage over Valentino Rossi. It's his fastest lap of the race. Hayden into the 1:23s for the first time, a 1:23.984 for the American youngster, 1:24.5 from Rossi, 1:24.1 from Edwards. The gap between Rossi and Edwards now 1.1 seconds. That's the race that's on at the moment, really, between Rossi and Edwards. And then, of course, this battle behind them between Gibernau and Biaggi, and Gibernau just running it wide a little bit there, and Biaggi taking the invitation to come through for 4th place. Troy Bayliss just losing touch with these two now. He's 2.5 seconds down on this battle. That's not where Bayliss wanted to be. We've seen Troy back at his best this weekend and riding very aggressively. He was fastest in the first free practice on Friday morning. He's been there or thereabouts all weekend.
Sorry to butt in, Matt. I'm good with Carlo Ferrari, the racing director for Honda Europe. Looking good at the moment, Carlo, but a long way to go.
Yeah, it's very exciting. After 23 races, we are we are looking to get some good results. And Nicky today seems to be in very good shape. So for the moment, he's leading very well.
He made the perfect start, which was so important.
Yeah, here, especially here, is so important because the track is very narrow, so it's quite difficult to overtake.
And Max Biaggi also going well. Max Biaggi also going well. Max Biaggi.
Max make a mistake before the corkscrew, but now he's recovering well. So I think that he can overtake Gibernau. So we will see what happens.
Carlo, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, he's past Gibernau now. Max Biaggi, you've seen Gibernau there in 4th place. I can tell you that Max Biaggi is actually now in 4th place. There he is, just ahead of the Spaniard. The two Repsol Hondas then in the top 4. It's as Carlo Fiorani mentioned there, Nick, I hadn't really thought of that. The factory Honda team, HRC, sponsored by Repsol, of course, haven't won a race since Valentino Rossi at Valencia at the end of 2003, and now with a big chance of doing so here with Nicky Hayden.
Yeah, very much so. And I think you could tell in his voice, one, you couldn't hear exactly what I was saying some of the time because it was so noisy. It was perfect time because Nicky Hayden was just racing past, but also they're very nervous indeed about it. I can promise you that, because this is a big race for them. And
must be a record, I would think, Nick, 23 races without a factory Honda.
Very much so. I mean, really quite amazing, and so no wonder they're nervous. And I think, as Carlo said, Max Biaggi was actually impressed me all weekend, also riding very well indeed.
Yeah, he's been quiet but effective this weekend, Max Biaggi, and now, as we said, in 4th place. I can tell you that Colin Edwards has continued his charge to Valentino Rossi, just half a second now separating Rossi and Edwards. That race is going to get very tasty indeed over the next couple of laps. Nicky Hayden is still streets ahead on his Honda. He's leading Valentino Rossi by 2.7 seconds. Here he is, the American 23-year-old, just 24 at the end of this month, and now leading his home Grand Prix, and there is that fight for second place. It's about to get a little bit more intense now because Colin Edwards has got his eyes on it, and he's actually closing down the gap slowly but surely to Nicky Hayden at the same time here, Colin Edwards. Whether it's going to be enough to actually challenge Nicky for the win before the end of this race, we'll have to wait and see, but that is what Edwards really wants.
Of course he does. What with third distance now, and what, as I say, what he's got to do is get past Valentino Rossi, and that's not going to be easy, but he really is closing now on the world champion. That's the gap. There's Nicky Hayden. Now comes Valentino Rossi, very closely followed by Colin Edwards. I don't think this race is over yet, and it'll be interesting to see just how Nicky Hayden's looked after his tyres, exactly what he's done. But Edwards knows he's got to get past Rossi if he's going to have any chance of catching Hayden at the front as they race down through the corkscrew.
He's getting closer and closer with every corner here. Colin Edwards really has the run of his teammate, and he's getting closer and closer. This is going to be a real battle within just a lap or two's time. You've got to say that Edwards has now got the pace, and as you said before, Nick, it's a question of how long it could take him to get past Valentino Rossi that could make the difference in this race.
Through the start and finish straight they come. Hayden 2.7 seconds. Edwards 0.3 of a second behind him. I don't expect Valentino Rossi. But he might actually want to know where Colin Edwards is. I think he probably knows where Nicky Hayden is. This is a turn 2, the Andretti hairpin. But a tight old corner. I saw Eddie Lawson crash there very badly many years ago and break his ankles. They go up now into turn 3, the right-hander. This is probably the not the most boring part of the circuit. It's flat to start with, and then they start to climb, and then it gets very exciting indeed.
Yeah, particularly through this corner, Nick. It's a flat entry, but then it starts to camber as they go through the corner. As you can see, they just accelerate through the corner. It's really spectacular to watch. And then same with this one, turn 5 as well. The left-hander, it starts flat, and it really tests the riders because they lose feeling on the way into the corner, and they just got to trust the machines, and then it starts to come back as they go through the corner, then power up towards through turn 6 here, and then up the Rahal straight over this blind crest. And talk about having blind faith here as they go over there.
Hold your stomach.
120 miles an hour as they get over that crest and then grab onto their bikes through the corkscrew. And here's where we saw Carlos Checa crash a couple of laps ago. All that front end running away from you all the way around through Rainy Curve and then into this right-hander.
And now into the left, that brings them back into the start and finish straight. And as Mick Doohan told us, and as we've seen in previous races here, some fabulous races we've already seen here from Superbikes and Super Sport. That's the place to overtake. Colin Edwards, obviously, at the moment, is not close enough to Valentino Rossi to do that. But if you're going to overtake, that is the place to do it as they race through turn 1.
The two Yamahas just taking a little bit of time out of Nicky Hayden's lead there at the front. Hayden was leading by 2.8 seconds. That gap now stands at 2.5. We've still got 19 laps to go. A long way here. We're, just over a third of the way into this race. Nicky Hayden is leading, but it's a long way from finish, and Colin Edwards is on the charge. The gap between himself and Valentino Rossi, the same as what it was on the previous lap. So Rossi just keeping Edwards at base, at bay. And then Edwards, as you say, Nick, just really pushing that Yamaha now as he tries to get close enough to Rossi to make an attack.
I think this is a crucial part of the race, don't you? Just see if Rossi can close a little bit on Nicky Hayden. As we know, Rossi just rides faster and faster as the tyres get, tyres have less and less rubber on them. Colin Edwards, we saw as they rushed down through the corkscrew, certainly had a few tyre problems just now. Certainly the bike was wobbling a little bit. This is going to be very interesting, and you've got the timing monitors in front of you. Rossi's certainly holding firm at the moment, but can he start eking back a few tenths of a second?
Edwards with that classic looking number 5 is closing, and again Valentino Rossi much quicker through the second section of the track, but Edwards making the time up through sections 3 and 4, and now the gap between them 0.4 of a second still, as it has been for the past couple of laps. So Edwards has seems hit a little bit of a wall here as he tries to get closer to Valentino Rossi, and Nicky Hayden taking advantage there to maintain his lead at 2.6 seconds. Both of the front two riders, Hayden and Rossi, setting 1:24.4s there, and Edwards with a 1:24.5, so just losing a tenth of a second in his quest to catch Rossi.
We look at Nicky Hayden now. What must he be feeling? Well, sure, he's not feeling anything. He's just concentrating very hard indeed. The great thing about this track, there's no real straights. You've got no time to think of strategy, no time to work anything out. I think Alex Barros said yesterday, it's like riding a motocross track. You've just been battered the whole time, and you've just got to just go for it. You haven't got time to think about it. But Nicky Hayden looking at just backing it in there. What a race it is. from the former AMA Superbike champion, starting this race in pole position. His first pole start in MotoGP. Could this be his first victory? A long, long way to go for Nicky Hayden. Don't start thinking about that checkered flag yet, but he's riding the race absolutely perfectly at the moment as he comes back towards that start and finish straight. Look at the gap progression. He's just held it really firm between him and Rossi.
Well, it stands at 2.5 seconds now. Mick Doohan said it could be as much as 5 seconds by the end of the race. We will see. It remains at 2.5, but the gap between Rossi and Edwards has got considerably closer there. Rossi with a 1:24.7 and Edwards with a 1:24.4, taking 3/10 out of Rossi there. And as you can see now, getting as close as he has done all race to the Italian.
Very close now, isn't he? Perhaps he is going to make a move. Perhaps he's decided that he still has got a chance of getting near Nicky Hayden at the front, but he has got to get past Valentino Rossi. And as we know, that is not going to be easy around this circuit. Is he close enough, though? Well, they're not there yet, but the real test will be when they come into the last corner, into the start and finish straight. If he is close enough, he's got to be a bit closer than that. He's closing all the time. That will tell us if Colin Edwards can actually get past Valentino Rossi. He's closing all the time. Is he close enough this lap? If he's not this lap, I'm sure he's going to have a go the lap after.
Well, this is where Edwards starts to get strong, Nick. Valentino Rossi through this third section, and here he comes into the corkscrew. It goes. Colin Edwards passes Valentino Rossi in the corkscrew, and now Edwards is up to second place.
The crowd at the grandstand here are going absolutely wild. So much for all our technical definitions, eh? Can only do it going into the last corner. He did it going into the corkscrew. What has Valentino Rossi got left? I don't think he's going to take that lightly, do you?
I don't, but I would be surprised if he reacted just yet, Nick. Valentino yesterday saying that there's still a few secrets of this track that he's yet to learn. Brad Pitt and Matt LeBlanc there watching on. Just at the end of the straight there, you can see Edwards and Rossi blast through it over that crest and down to this Andretti hairpin. But Valentino Rossi saying that he did have some secrets to learn. Now then, Ray just runs it wide through the hairpin there, and that is one place where you can really lose time. I mentioned that a couple of laps ago, but if you get the entrance to that corner wrong, it's very, very difficult to make it up on the exit. And Rossi just losing touch here with Edwards, and that is not what he wanted to do at this stage.
Here is the overtaking manoeuvre. Fantastic. Up the inside, into the corkscrew. Colin Edwards goes past teammate Valentino Rossi. We ride with Rossi. Let's look at Edwards.
This is a blind crest as well, and that you've got to know where you're going doing that kind of move. Obviously, Edwards does, having ridden here so many times. That's really the difference there between the two Yamaha riders.
And just Rossi running it wide just about half a lap ago. Let's just open up that gap now. Because Colin Edwards what's he got left in his locker? It's a long way to go. He's got clear track in front of him. He's won here previously. This is a big moment for Edwards. The next couple of laps is going to tell us an awful lot. And what about the men behind, of course, Valentino Rossi, Max Biaggi and Sete Gibernau? Perhaps they get close to him as well.
The gap between them at the moment, Nick, is 2 seconds. In fact, Biaggi's just taken 4/10 out of Rossi on this lap. Not sure if Rossi could be having some kind of problems here because he's going further and further back. We will find out over the next couple of laps. Let's keep an eye on these lap times. They're going to tell us a lot. Nicky Hayden with a 1:24.5. And Colin Edwards there with a 1:24.3, so 2/10 in favour of Colin Edwards. The gap 2.4 seconds, 15 laps to go. If he can keep that up, he will catch Nicky Hayden, and we could have a real race on at the end here between the two Americans.
Well, they're excited here at the moment. What that would be like if they got close to each other would be incredible. Lap 18 of 32, as you say, a long, long way to go. We look further down the field, we see John Hopkins, you see Tamada Caparossi, Ruben Chaus, of course, a former winner here, currently in 11th place. He won a World Superbike race here. And this is the battle between Max Biaggi and Sete Gibernau. And Gibernau certainly has not let Biaggi get away, but Biaggi is just clawing back the advantage over Valentino Rossi. There's Rossi, Biaggi and Gibernau. Rossi made that mistake, and Biaggi pulled up 4/10 of a second on the last lap. Rossi really could come under quite a little bit of pressure from those two. But the man who leads the way, and imperiously leads the way at the moment, is Nicky Hayden. Now Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi as they race down from the corkscrew towards the rainy curve. And it'll be very interesting to see what the times are when they come back through the start and finish, just to see if Colin Edwards has eked out any of those few precious seconds or milliseconds. As they come into the left-hander, this brings them back into the start and finish straight, and they cross the line now.
Well, Edwards had taken 2/10 out of Nicky Hayden on the previous lap. I think it's going to be something similar this time around. As they cross the line, we look, and yes, it is. It's 2.1 seconds the difference. In fact, Edwards taking just over 2/10 out of Hayden there. At this rate, he's going to catch him. We're in the high 124s here. Nicky Hayden 1:24.7. He's done 1:24.7s for the past 2 or 3 laps now, and he's going to have to step the pace up here if he's not going to get caught. James Ellison here is about to be passed. There is Ellison on the WCM, and he's on a back marker. He knows, though, there's a look over the shoulder. He's seen Nicky Hayden, he's seen the blue flags, and I'm sure that there's not going to be problems here. James Ellison, a very experienced rider and a very quick rider as well, just unfortunate to be on the wrong machinery.
I'm actually in the Yamaha pit now. Always very, very calm indeed, isn't it? But everybody looking at the big screen. There's a big screen behind us, and just seeing if Colin Edwards is pulling back that advantage. I'll just have so I can get a word with David Gribio. No, he's just put his headphones back on, and he's back looking at the screens. You can't really blame him. He's got a race to run, hasn't he? We'll see if we can get a word with him a little bit later on. But Colin Edwards are just looking at his board. They're telling him obviously in second place, and they're telling us the gap now is 1.9 seconds. 1.9 seconds down on the race leader, Nicky Hayden.
Yeah,
plus 2.1 over Valentino Rossi. That's what the board's telling us.
Yeah, that's completely accurate, Nick. 1.9 seconds the gap between Hayden and Edwards. But I'll be interested to see what Nicky Hayden's been told, because he needs to get a move on here. It's 1.8 seconds now. Edwards taking out another tenth through the first section of this lap. Nicky Hayden's really got to be careful here, because this lead that he's worked so hard to stretch out over the opening laps could be diminishing. And Nick, this is when tyre problems could come in, or not necessarily problems, but tyre wear becomes a factor. Another 1:24.7 from Hayden, another 1:24.4 from Colin Edwards. This is the way it's been for the past 3 or 4 laps now, and with 13 laps to go, if this continues, Hayden is going to be caught and passed by Colin Edwards.
And let's be really honest, we've seen Nicky Hayden fade, haven't we, in races quite a few times this season. In Assen he faded mid-race, then came back into the race. But Nicky Hayden has faded in races that he's been doing very well in. He's had some good podium positions and then faded away from them. Is he doing the same? There's the longest distance between the Yamaha pit and the Repsol Honda pit, or about halfway down. Let's see what they're going to say down in Nicky Hayden's pit when I get there.
The other thing is as well, Nick, Nicky Hayden really gives his tyres a hard time. That backing it in style, that's very, very effective around this Laguna Seca circuit, there's no doubt about it. But Nicky Hayden has been criticised in some quarters that he's got to change that style a little bit more to a little bit more of a European style, pick his corner speed up a little bit more, because as well as losing time at some tracks, he also gives his tyres some real stick, and over the last few laps that can count. But Hayden reacts there. Oh, that's an excellent lap from Nicky Hayden. 1:24.4, 1:24.8 from Edwards. Edwards presumably making a mistake on that last lap, but no doubt about it, Nicky Hayden has got his finger out once again, and Hayden has extended his lead back out to just over 2 seconds from Colin Edwards. So just as we're talking about Hayden fading in the second half.
There you go. And I tell you, it's standing in front of me, not a yard away. I'm not going to speak to him because he's got his head bowed as Nicky Hayden's dad, Earl. And he is living every single inch, metre, mile, kilometre of this race. He's got his head bowed. He's dead. Look, but he came away from the pit box after the lap. You had said such an excellent lap from Nicky. And he just smiled briefly before the head back went back down. What is interesting here, that the pit box is very close to that first bend. They don't have their signalling boards here because it's too close for the riders to see. So in fact, Nicky Hayden's signalling board is quite a way up pit lane, in the middle of pit lane, so they're obviously communicating by radar and telling them exactly what to put on it. But we're so close to turn one, the first turn, the left-hander that comes in, they can't put their signalling boards out there. Both Honda, the Repsol Honda, certainly Camel Honda also, and I think probably Telefonica Movistar also, don't hang their boards out so close to that last bend.
Well, it's interesting you say that about Nicky Hayden's dad, Nick. It's been a tough old day for Earl Hayden this morning. Saw his 2 sons, Tommy and Roger Lee, in the Superstock race this morning. Tommy crashing out a couple of laps from the end after running into a back marker when fighting for the win with Jason DeSalvo and Aaron Yates, and Roger Lee coming across the line in 3rd place. What an emotional day for Earl Hayden, watching this now. His middle son Nicky leading the MotoGP race, the first time back in the United States for Grand Prix racing since 1994.
I've just got to tell you about Earl. He's just sucking in breath. You can see his chest pumping. He's got his head bowed. And he is so nervous. Again, he came away and looked at the last lap times, and he just had a little glint in his eye, just a little smile. I think he knows his son is never going to have a better chance of winning a MotoGP Grand Prix. And what a place to do it, in his homeland in the US.
Well, that glint in his eye will be representative of the extra tenth of a second that Hayden took out of Edwards again on that last lap. 1:24.6 this time from Nicky Hayden, slightly slower, 2/10 slower than his previous lap, but a tenth quicker, crucially, than Colin Edwards. Valentino Rossi has lost touch with Edwards almost completely. He's now 2 seconds adrift of the American. Then Max Biaggi, who didn't close any more the gap to Rossi in third place on that previous lap. 1:24.6 from Max Biaggi, and then the men behind are all in the 1:25. Sete Gibernau, Troy Bayliss, John Hopkins and Shinya Nakano. We just got a glimpse of that battle going on there further down the pack.
I've got to tell you, Earl Hayden, he's got his own stopwatch. He's timing Nicky with the thumb on the stopwatch, and then he goes to check the timing screen, but he's just checking that everybody's got it smack on.
1:24.8 this time from Nicky Hayden, 24.9 from Colin Edwards, another tenth in favour of Hayden. The lap times are slightly higher than we expected, and I really do think that this extra track temperature here must be well in excess of 40 degrees now. I think that's really played a crucial part here, and tyre wear will be important in the final stages of this race, and it's going to be how they manage it. This track does suit an aggressive riding style, and that is what Nicky Hayden has got. Don't think there's any doubt about that. The bike sliding around on the entries and the exits of the corners, really nowhere to get a rest, especially even the straight here isn't really a straight. It's got that nasty kink and rise in it at the end, and there's no chance to get your breath, and you've got to be on top of this bike the whole way around. Here's Colin Edwards now as we go through the corkscrew once again. Look at that left and then right, the drop all the way down. Really difficult to appreciate just how steep that is unless you go and stand right in it, as we did yesterday morning, Nick. It's a really awesome, breathtaking corner, isn't it?
Yeah, they're telling, I found at Nicky Hayden's board now, 2.3 seconds, they're telling, 8 laps to go, plus 2.3, Colin, in big yellow letters. He doesn't need telling.
We ride with Colin Edwards in second place on that Yamaha, sporting those wonderful Yamaha USA yellow and black colours, sported, of course, in the late 70s and early 80s by Kenny Roberts Sr., the first of the American dirt trackers to come over, and of course the likes of Wayne Rainey, Eddie Lawson, Randy Mamola, Doug Chandler all followed him across to Europe with that spectacular sliding style, and how fitting that it is two Americans. Edwards actually a former motocrosser, but Nicky Hayden, a former dirt tracker, just one title short of an AMA Grand Slam, and here he is sliding that Honda around here as Kenny Roberts would love to see. I'm sure he is enjoying this on pit wall down there, Nick. He'd be a bit disappointed. Shane Byrne down there in 16th place, and his own son Kenny Jr. in 15th place, but I'm sure that Kenny Roberts will be delighted to see another dirt tracker, Nicky Hayden, come through and really establish himself on the MotoGP scene.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Kenny opened the way in the late 70s, and then they dominated races in the 80s, up into the 90s, and there has been a big gap. Kenny Roberts' son won it in the year 2000, but since then, the American, he was the last winner of a Premier Class Grand Prix, the last American winner for Premier Class Grand Prix, I think Motegi in the year 2000, and it really has been a barren time for the Americans. But this is the new breed, isn't it? It's Nicky Hayden, there's John Hopkins, and of course there's Colin Edwards, and they're brought up on those dirt tracks, and I'm sure Kenny Roberts will be absolutely delighted. We spoke to Kenny, of course, didn't we, earlier, just before the race started, and he was very, very proud about the Grand Prix, and I think he'd be very proud that perhaps an American is going to win the Grand Prix. I'm sure he would have wanted it to be his son, but his son it isn't. But if it's not going to be his son, Nicky Hayden doing it, they're bringing great pleasure. And the crowd here, I tell you, every single one of them in the grandstand on the start and finish straight is on their feet. Nobody's sitting down. They wouldn't be allowed to watch football at Manchester United, but they're allowed to watch Grand Prix motorcycle racing at Laguna Seca.
Well, this Laguna track absolutely ideal for this as well, Nick. The dirt track style, that sliding style, as I mentioned before, because of the way the bike needs to be handled on the entry and the exit to the corners here. But really, that's not the case at a lot of European circuits, and it's becoming less and less so with the new technology, engine management systems and fly-by-wire technology and all the rest of it. Of course, the tyres are really evolving as well. There's so much edge grip now from these Michelins as well that allows people like Valentino Rossi to make the most of his 250cc style. Rossi, of course, has learnt to slide it as well. He's got the whole package, but guys like Max Biaggi benefit more from the way that MotoGP is going at the moment. Nicky Hayden is working at this track, but he really will in the future have to adopt his style a little bit more if he's going to convert that form to European circuits and really become a force to be reckoned with in the way that the former dirt trackers before him in the past on those 500s, like Kenny Roberts, like Wayne Rainey, Mick Doohan as well, of course, all did before him.
Yeah, they're just telling Nicky Hayden as Colin Edwards flashes through, 6 to go, 2 second gap between him and Colin Edwards. That's what the board's saying. What do the times say?
Yeah, it's 2 seconds between Hayden and Edwards, Nick. It stayed at that for quite a while. That's probably Nicky Hayden's slowest lap in quite some time, a 1:24.9. 7 laps to go here. Perhaps a slight lack of concentration from Nicky. It's more than understandable to lose a couple of tenths in a lap. And as I say, 1:24.9 from Hayden, 1:24.7 from Edwards. So 2 tenths in Edwards' favour there. We keep an eye on that. It's coming down ever so slightly. And